Hi, I'm Spencer Krause. I've been building robots for over 20 years. In that time, I've seen a lot of interesting things, and I've heard a lot of interesting stories. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is a place where my colleagues and I can relax, crack a drink, and talk about some of the crazier things we've seen at work and some of the experiences we've had that have gotten us to where we are today. Subscribe today to join the collaboration. Welcome to the Collaborative Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Krause. Our guests today are Jackie Erickson and Ben Pratt with the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. Folks, welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on.
No, this is great. This is exciting.
And so, I'm excited to kind of hear more about all the stuff you guys do. I know about most of it because every time I tell Ben, hey, I saw this amazing thing in another part of the country, he goes, yeah, we paid for that.
Yeah, more or less. We'll unpack that for you.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit more about what you guys are up to in the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance and kind of, what compelled you to take on this role.
Yeah, so I came back to Pittsburgh as a boomerang in 2023 to help coordinate our region's new economy collaborative, which helps secure, it was 90-plus organizations across the greater Pittsburgh region that came together and said to the federal government, look, Pittsburgh has a huge opportunity to become and grow and expand on momentum that has been building in Pittsburgh for a number of years around a robotics and technology cluster. And through that effort, they secured a $63 million grant, plus or minus a little bit. And that $63 million facilitated the programming to help us grow and expand the robotics ecosystem through reducing the cost and barriers of adopting robotics and technology systems for advanced manufacturers, grow our workforce development pipeline for advanced manufacturers and robotics companies, and help us enable commercialization for startups in the robotics and technology space in the greater Pittsburgh region. So when you say, oh yeah, we paid for that, it's the funding that we've secured helped enable us to connect companies and programs to the resources to enable them to access these incredible opportunities that we're excited that you've been able to participate in.
We're grateful.
Yeah. And all of that, I'd have to say, has a lot to do with, like I said, it's been years in the making, right? So you and Jackie, to my right here, have been working the robotics ecosystem far longer than I have in the greater Pittsburgh region, but Jackie's was one of the founders of the Pittsburgh Robotics Network.
I remember that. Well, I don't remember you founding it. I came in after it was already going.
Yes, yes. There was a lot to getting it established very organically, though. And so, I have a particular role now at the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, but it dates back to, I will date it 2007, when I was working for U.S. Senator Bob Casey, and I walked into the National Robotics Engineering Center, the NREC. And you ever have moments in time in your life where you walk into something and you just feel a calling? And I walked into NREC. I don't come from an engineering background.
That's how I felt when I walked into NREC.
Right? And I don't have an engineering background. I don't have anybody that has a connection to Carnegie Mellon. But I walked in and I listened to what was happening, and I said into my heart, this is the future. This is the future of this region. And I remember at every single moment in time in that particular position, how could I leverage the U.S. Senate office to benefit the robotics industry? And the senator had started to do some funding specifically for the agriculture industry and things like that. So we had a track record. But I do remember in 2014 reading a Politico article it was titled, How the Robots Saved Pittsburgh. And it was written by Glenn Thrush, one of a fantastic reporter. And it was about Red Whitaker.
Oh, cool.
And everybody had sent this to me. Whenever you're in U.S. government, there's certain things that you read. And from all over the state, people are like, did you read this? Even colleagues from Ohio or West Virginia was like, did you see this? And I said, I'm very familiar with Red Whitaker. And I knew at that moment my next step was going to be in robotics, and it was. and it was with Red Whitaker.
Oh, cool.
And so I was very fortunate to be able to join one of his companies, Astrobotic, and learn from him. But that's where I acknowledge going from a non-engineering background into the robotics sector, really listening to Red's stories. And he has some fantastic stories, and he's done a tremendous amount of work of laying the groundwork for this particular industry here. And, looking around at that time, seeing and hearing, we had Red Zone, we had NREC, we had all these different companies in the neighborhood where we were in. But at that time, and I want to say it was like 2014, right, where we didn't really talk about it that much. There was a conversation around Carnegie Mellon, but you didn't have a messaging around the ecosystem. And with Red's blessing, I was able to kind of go out and engage more so independently as a contractor for some time with a number of the companies, and kind of start to build and lay the foundation with folks like Aaron Morris or Kevin Dowling or Chris Osterwood at who's no longer in Pittsburgh, but Carnegie Robotics. A number of folks within the industry that really wanted to kind of pull together something where you could engage and collaborate. And so it wasn't called the Pittsburgh Robotics Network for a few years, but we got there.
What did you call it initially?
Originally, I think Kevin had called it the Pittsburgh Robotics Council.
Oh, yeah, I get to that.
Right, and so we were the council, the PRC. I still have old folders that say PRC on it in my my laptop, and it was a great collaboration, but it was very organic. It was connecting roboticists with each other. I worked with a bunch of roboticists that didn't know all the companies in the area, and we would have little events, and it was just growing organically. Or Red would just call me up and say, Jackie, I got this VIP coming in. He wants to see companies outside of Carnegie Mellon. Can you do this? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And so basically a lot of the early days was Red or CMU saying, can you do this? We have something that we acknowledge that it was important to have something that was outside of Carnegie Mellon, that was independent, that had its own kind of engagement or personality, also connecting with Carnegie Mellon at the time. And that's kind of how it all kind of came to be. But it was fun. It was very organic. Lots of stories. But that's
and a lot of people, right?
And
like a lot of people have been involved and engaged.
Lots of people. And I mean, you think of the early days of yourself showing up at early events when we did some things, and sometimes it was just trying to figure out, what do you guys need? What do you want? The Post-it notes on the different events I could still see on the walls. But it was really great to understand, again, this would have been almost a decade ago, right? Of just grassroots effort of talking with folks. I think of, the folks, Sarjun at Bossa Nova at the time, right? And again, Carnegie Robotics and a number of different companies that were just Near Earth Autonomy. I'm just kind of giving some shout out. Edge Case Research, where I was for a while. A lot of folks were at a particular stage of a company, and it was a really exciting time. We had self-driving cars, but we also had this very robust ecosystem that was blossoming. So those were some of the originations. And then, I went into working in a number of different robotics companies, whether it was in San Francisco or Boston, but a lot of the work then was, my personal career was with Phil Coatman at Edge Case Research doing self-driving car safety.
Yeah, Phil's a great guy.
And he's been on the show a number of times, and
Yes.
he's sent me those podcasts, and they've been great. So
I've seen him on the evening news, like when I'm just hanging out in a dive bar in San Francisco.
But I think this is the importance of us coming on this podcast to not only talk about, our ecosystem, but we have the people that are involved in it. There's the Phil Coatmans of the world-renowned automotive autonomous vehicle safety expert, in Pittsburgh. We have a lot of great expertise here, and we're fortunate to be in a place where I think the ecosystem, the industry knows globally that when you're in Pittsburgh, you're going to be around a lot of talent. And I ended up going into the auto industry and mostly working with folks in Detroit, but they always be like, what's going on in Pittsburgh? What's going on in Pittsburgh? And so
I'm in Detroit now. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there was a point in time where I ended up being in Detroit and DC more than I was in Pittsburgh. and one of the reasons why I wanted to come back to work with Ben at the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, because when I did see the federal grant, and we do give credit to the Department of Commerce of acknowledging the importance of where Pittsburgh sits within this nation and the robotics ecosystem, and the funding that has come through, I said, I had started something, with a collaborative a number of years ago, and even though I did love the automotive industry, I missed my home. And I was really honored when I could have some of the first conversations with Ben to say, what are we doing here? And how can I help? Because I want to be a part of something that grows this again.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
what's next? I mean, that's the other fun part about Pittsburgh. Is
Yeah.
I think you're probably one of the best examples of what's been fun about doing the work is really most of the time it's focused on that's fine, but what's next? And we're all trying to figure out what's the next problem we're solving, what's the next thing that we're trying to do to evolve the ecosystem. There are so many organizations and individuals working to continue to push the envelope, and that's what's so fun about it. I mean, that's kind of why we're here. Right?
Yeah, and I think Ben has worked in different markets. You've worked in different markets, but
You've worked in different markets.
There's a different vibe whether you're working for a startup in Boston or in San Francisco or a big corporate entity in Detroit. This is a really special place, and this is why people keep, like yourself,
And yourself.
and myself, like we all keep coming back.
But a testament to the collaborative with Spencer Krause, I have to say this is a perfect demonstration of the juxtaposition of what makes Pittsburgh so unique. Is we're not here talking about something new or innovative. We are talking about the iterative process that's taken place over 15 years, 20 years, 50 years in some instances, if you think about it in the context of like CMU's history. I mean, it's incredible. And I can tell you, so I am not a roboticist in any shape or form. My focus has been in economic development my entire career. And economic development really is focusing on how you maximize and capitalize on the opportunity to grow and expand existing businesses in your economy so that they can continue to hire more people and attract more capital and connect to the workforce and really maximize the GDP of your region. And so what's interesting about my role is that it is definitely and Jackie, I mean, what's so cool about Jackie is that she's gotten to live on both sides of the fence for so long. What's fun for me is having the economic development background. I've worked in 7 different markets over the last 15 years, or I've represented about 7 different regions, from Colorado to Texas to northern Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, shout out to Erie, to Kentucky, all these great communities. And I love every one of them. But I can tell you, one of the biggest things that each one of them were talking about was how they couldn't find specific types of workforce that were holding their economies back. And what got me excited about this is, particularly after working in more of our industrial communities, is like Pittsburgh was trying to solve the barrier of helping manufacturers address the adoption barrier, like the adoption risk of the automation process, and the amazing spot that we're in as a country and as industries of evolving to automated processes. And just Pittsburgh is a lightning rod for that, right? I mean, you're seeing it in your work.
Sure. No, I mean, it's great. I always say, Detroit's kind of got us outmatched in automotive. Boston's got us outmatched in probably like med tech and biosciences, and then maybe warehouse logistics as well. We've got all of them outclassed in field robotics. Like, that's where Pittsburgh is best in world, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, working in the different industries, you always have to remind folks that, we have an amazing talent pool. And again, I go back to my days of Red Whitaker and what they've done with field robotics here.
Yeah, for sure. And he pioneered that.
He pioneered. I mean, and at the end of the day, like a lot of those cities, again, West Coast benefited from the self-driving car phase, but none of that would have happened without Red, and Red pushing that. Now, I should say there was a DARPA grant challenge, right?
Red was a big part of that.
Oh, Red was, huge, right? As he would nudge to me and say, yeah, we saved GM. Because at that time, the car companies were looking for something innovative, right? And it was fascinating. Again, not a part of it, but I spent hours on the phone with him and other people that were involved with that particular race, and all the kudos to them for the blood, sweat, and tears that went into developing the technology, testing it in unbelievable circumstances, and they persevered through it, right, to prove something. But a lot of that wouldn't have happened without Red. So I give him so much credit for that.
No, for sure. I mean, I grew up going to the Science Center and seeing like Dante. Like I really looked up to that guy as a kid. He's one of the reasons I got into robotics.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And seeing some of the work he did at the NREC and, the Field Robotics Center and.
And NREC just celebrated their 30th anniversary, and Red told some of the early stories of driving down to DC to get the funding in a snowstorm, and it was pretty amazing. But also, even if we take a look at the Hazelwood Green site, that used to be called Robot City. Huh. And that's where they did a lot of the testing for the early challenges. So even before Uber put their test track in, that was Red's Robot City. So there's a lot of history that has come through, again, from a field robotics side that is a testament to Pittsburgh.
This episode of Collaborative with Spencer Krause is brought to you by Rockwell Park. If you're building something in tech, robotics, AI, or even advanced manufacturing, Rockwell Park is already home to companies just like yours. Located right here in the historic East End of Pittsburgh, Rockwell Park has spaces starting at 1,000 square feet all the way up to over 100,000 square feet. So if you're an early-stage startup or even a Fortune 500 company, here you can scale without limits. Look, we built this studio in Rockwell Park. We love working with these guys. You should check them out. If you're interested, go to rockwellpark.com. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is sponsored by SKA Robotics. If you're in the market for elite field robotics expertise, please consider hiring SKA Robotics. They sponsor this podcast and solve some of the toughest engineering problems in the world. SKA Robotics can be found at skarobotics.com.
I do want to give we're talking a lot about where Pittsburgh is now and how we are a tremendous ecosystem. But I'm always the person that does go back, right? And how did we get here? And I have heard stories, if folks are familiar with Nikki's Diner on Grand Street. So Nikki, who owns a diner, when he was a kid, he had an uncle who had a hot dog shop. And Nikki was told, go pick up a U.S. Senator. This would have been in the 70s, around in the 70s, right, or 80s. Go pick up this U.S. Senator from the airport. You're going to drive him to Carnegie Mellon. You're going to drive him around, and then you're going to take him back. I wish I could remember what U.S. Senator that was. It was not a Pennsylvania senator. And Nikki tells me the story. He went to the airport. He followed directions. He took him around, circled around, showed him the city, got him a hot dog, took him back to the airport, and that senator funded the first round of funding into what would be the PhD for Carnegie Mellon's first. Yeah. And then I think of also Congressman John Murtha, who was out of Johnstown. Decades of funding through the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee Pittsburgh was not part of his district, but he knew the importance of this region.
But Johnstown got a ton of weapons contracts out of that.
Oh, well, there's a long story. That's a whole other podcast to honor Mr. Murtha. But yes, Johnstown became a powerhouse in the defense industry. They still have a strong presence, maybe not what it was when Mr. Murtha was there, but I remember my first rounds of visits to CMU in robotics was with their appropriations staff. And they would do very specific visits to Red, to RI, to ensure they knew exactly where Mr. Murtha was going to fund these things. So I do want to acknowledge there's a lot of history before all of this stuff too. So
yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
When you were at Carnegie Mellon, were there specific capstone projects that you remember, or specific faculty that you worked with that? Because I bet if you were to name some of the projects, Jackie could trace it back to the funding source.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I can do that sometimes.
I'm trying to think, right? So I want to name something I'm proud of, and I'm having trouble doing that because I have a huge imposter syndrome. But especially in those days.
Come on. Go
What's
for
something
it.
that you were excited about?
Not with people like us. We won't know the difference.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair. So I guess something I always thought was cool. It's not something I worked on, but something I is neat and iconic and just fun to look at is that Army Corps of Engineers project that's like taking up the whole backyard of NREC.
Absolutely.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're still working on it. I feel like it's just a museum piece at this point.
I think they still are, but when I was in the U.S. Senate, I spent a lot of time working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
It's been around for 7 years now. It must be.
Yeah, it was at one point the largest robot ever built. So
what's surpassed it?
That's a good. Maybe nothing has. So it could still be. Ask Jeff Legault. He'll probably tell
All right,
you.
so for the listeners, can you describe what this thing did?
Yeah. So my understanding is that basically there's erosion on the bottom of lakes and rivers, and so this thing goes and just puts down concrete tiles in order to mitigate that. And so it's a bunch of conveyor belts and then a bunch of vending machine grabber arms that go around and grab concrete tiles from the conveyor belts and place them on the bottom of the river. So
And it
how close did I get?
it ties the rebar together with the coil that used to be done by hand. So while the boat or the ship or the flatbed was on the water, and humans were going through during current cycles and everything, and going through and tying these concrete slabs together with rebar ties.
Like scuba diving gear?
No, while it was still above water.
Oh, wow.
And then they would deploy it into the water. And so what this helped do was tie the rebar because you can't get all of these segments of concrete onto the barges all at the same time. They had to do them in segments. And this system, not only did it help deploy it, but it also helped tie it together, because otherwise it would drift and or shift on the bed itself.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so the rebar tying was a really dull, dirty, and dangerous job on these systems, and the robotic system would help tie those. And now
you could never get hurt doing that job.
When the Army Corps of
Perfectly safe.
Engineers, I can't
man.
imagine the proposal that they had to submit to get that funding to go forward, because that would have been bleak.
For sure.
But it's interesting, the Army Corps of Engineers is one of those agencies from an infrastructure standpoint that probably needs robotics more than any, I think, government entity at this point. U.S. Department of Transportation, yes, but Army Corps is trying out different ways, the best they can within the scope that they have. And the general who leads it actually lives in Pittsburgh. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, so the lead, Butch Graham, for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is north of Pittsburgh.
Just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence. Actually, he was one of the...
Doesn't sound like a coincidence to me.
One of the commanders.
Well, it's the top of the Ohio River here,
Yeah.
friends. It's the confluence of the rivers and the stop. 14 locks between, 13 or 14?
Let's just say some of the oldest inland water. It's one of the largest inland waterways in the country, and at one point it was the oldest, the second oldest. And they, after Senator Casey made some changes to funding, that was able to do some modernization a few years ago. So, but this goes to also say that when it comes to just the essence of Pittsburgh, Butch Graham was the Pittsburgh commander a number of years ago, and he stayed here, right? He didn't go to D.C. There's a number of, whether it's a roboticist or a lead federal agency, any type of entrepreneur, is that the essence of our city is people come here and they stay, And I think
They boomerang back.
Or they boomerang back, yes.
We all did.
There's that always that tie, and then that tie always comes in on Sundays at 1:00 Eastern time during football season, when everybody's waving their terrible towel.
Yeah.
We gotta wave our terrible towel.
I have to say, though, while living in Denver, the game times were much more favorable for the Mountains. And
Yeah.
Nice.
You could definitely watch a game, and then it would end at 10 instead of like starting at 10. So Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is a force, man. Like, I don't know. I mean, this is a weird plug for the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, but the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is like internationally recognized as one of the best symphony orchestras in the world. I don't know if you're aware of this. And one of the things that we like to do is go with them on their international tours.
That sounds fun.
Because they pull such a interesting and diverse crowd into their concert series, and a lot of the times, because they're so internationally renowned, they're opening the venues of these very prestigious halls, and there are a lot of connections from the corporate and cultural infrastructure in each one of these places. And so all this to say, the arts community in Pittsburgh actually does play a big role in the economic development stuff.
No, and I would say it's a big reason why I really love this city is just the fact that, we've got culture, but it's like not so overpriced that you're...
It's affordable.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Man. Not just a sports town.
Not just a sports
town.
I have to remember that.
Yeah.
Because my days are baseball and football,
Nice.
mixed in with hockey. But it's a city of diversity. And as much as I loved my friends in Michigan, and it's a great state, and Detroit's great, and people are great, there's something about Pittsburgh that diversifies everything. We're just not automotive, right? We're just not one thing. We're a variety of things. So when people come in, I was talking to somebody who was a veteran, and she decided to put her company here basically because of the opportunities for former military, for veterans, right? So it's just, the city offers so much to almost everybody.
It's funny, you probably heard some of that chatter from the Innovate UK group that just came in, like,
Yeah.
I guess a month or so ago.
Yeah.
We hosted.
Yeah, it was at the, you mean you and I saw each other there.
Yeah. Spencer joined us as
We drug
part
you
of
in.
our, like,
Happy to be there.
so we host a number of exchanges.
Sorry for our booth being obnoxious and
It
huge.
was so beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you.
But yeah, we host all kinds of different companies and ecosystems that come into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Robotics Network has been great in curating a lot of these relationships, and we host them here because they want to know what the secret sauce is, and a lot of it has to do with the things that Jackie was saying. It's like, it's not just we are good at a single widget. It's the specialty of wanting to know what the problems are that need to really be solved. And Matt Smith, our boss, loves to quote during one of the many opportunities that CMU has brought in keynote speakers, there was a Google executive who came in and said that, oh yeah, we like to send our tough problems to Pittsburgh. Like, we send those become like the Pittsburgh problems.
The Pittsburgh
Nice.
problem, yeah.
Because that's where we can get some of the tougher things figured out. And it really stuck with a lot of people because, when innovation hits its biggest hurdle and needing a new perspective and a new approach, because we don't specialize and we have such a diverse economy, we can introduce a Pittsburgh solution, which ultimately usually is the most innovative, cheapest, fastest, and most effective solution. And that's what's fun about being in Pittsburgh, right?
Oh, that's great, man.
So to your listeners, anybody that needs to solve a problem, come and
Call Spencer.
and ask for the Pittsburgh solution,
Yeah.
and we will deliver on that.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But building on that, so you have gotten in, you're part of a number of different ecosystems. We were talking a little bit about this earlier. And so we recognize that these types of ecosystems are being built or have been built out across the country or around the world about ways that they can enable robotics and tech. What can we be doing? What can we be doing more here in Pittsburgh?
I think we're doing a lot of it, right? I said some of the things that other cities, I think, have us outclassed on earlier. But, I don't know. I think playing to our strengths, just building up the infrastructure around some of the field robotics work that we've got going on is big. I mean, I don't know. I have plans to launch more things here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've had Alex Fossil on this.
I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Him and I had dinner last night.
Yeah.
Oh man, Alex Fossil, what a legend! I love.
He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
He is, but he's also, if he and Kevin Dowling working together on and working with FIRA on bringing that Ag Progress Days in Penn State, like, so looking at these industry segments that are dull, dirty, and dangerous industry segments, or not even dull, dirty, and dangerous, they just have a workforce, issue that automation might be the most effective solution. Agriculture is a huge, area of opportunity. Has Cantor been on this, George Cantor?
To be honest, he hasn't. He actually was
Declined.
my advisor for a bit. I like that guy.
George Cantor, he's great. So all of this.
What's he up to these days since Bloomfield?
Oh man, you should talk. You should bring him on.
I should call him up.
We were just talking about the controlled environment agriculture and the applications of robotic systems in controlled environment agriculture systems. So he's got incredible ideas on ways that we can support the automation of those processes, but in the controlled environment. As you can imagine, it introduces the same kind of control settings to really maximize the performance of autonomous systems. And so all that to be said, FIRA Ag Progress Days all come in August.
Is there? How do
11th?
we differentiate FIRA from Ag Progress Days? Because
it's a
there's
good
a
question.
robotic
It's the
zone.
same-
No,
okay.
there's a robotic zone that's FIRA
Yeah.
specific as
Oh, I see.
part of Ag Progress Days. So Ag Progress Days has been happening in Pennsylvania for
100 years.
Yeah, close to
Feels like
100
forever.
years. And now there's a
100
Why not?
We're sticking with 100. Carl,
I'll take
fact check it, Carl. No, but FIRA is adding a robotic zone. And
Yep.
It's the first East Coast activation of the FIRA robotics, delegation participating. And what's so fun about that is Penn State's agriculture robotics programs and the incredible research being done in, which is our land grant institution, Pennsylvania, and ways that we can connect that with the specialty and field robotics happening in Pittsburgh and all the companies that have evolved, like a
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield Robotics. Yep. Those types of shout out to Burrow Robotics out in Philadelphia, another great
Oh, I
robotics.
was also talking to those guys today. Cut that.
Carl,
Carl,
Carl.
keep that out.
leave it. But some great other robotics companies like Burrow in Philadelphia. I mean, the spillover effect of the correlation of these emerging industries of Pennsylvania and the opportunities to automate them is fun. Like, what better place to
absolutely.
do it?
Yeah. So a lot of our work is based with these different collaborations. So we've talked about, Ag Progress Days, but we also are involved in Automate that's coming up here in Chicago, June 22nd through the 25th, 26th. And we're very excited as the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance will have
Still time to grab your tickets.
grab your
Oh,
tickets.
yeah.
Actually, it's free registration to walk the floor. Everything else, there's a little bit plus up, but that's on them.
Jackie will also cover your lodging and your flight.
Ben, where's that credit card of yours?
Promo code SKA Robot.
Hit us up in Chicago. But, where we fit into a lot of from the robotics ecosystem standpoint is, from a collaborator standpoint and being able to resource a booth, right? So the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance is taking a number of companies to automate this year. And we have about 9 companies that are going to be exhibiting under the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance booth number 3425
Wow.
in the
South Hall.
in
Better
the South
recall
Hall.
than me, sister.
3425. And those companies include Thorough, Titan, Hellbender, Hebby, Seagrid, Covestro, Tronix 3D, Flux, and eStat, as well as ourselves there. And this is a great opportunity
but it's not the only Pittsburgh companies going to automate.
That is correct. I should say I'm going to plug our booth first, and then we're
Yeah.
going to acknowledge that there's companies like Carnegie Robotics that has a large booth in North Hall, ARM Institute, as well as Gather AI and a number of different Pittsburgh companies that will be at Automate. We're just fortunate to be able to have a booth where we can collaborate and share the Pittsburgh specific message around this is where the real world solves the real problems that we were just mentioning. Like the big problems get solved here in Pittsburgh. So
Lovely.
yeah, we're really excited about it. Everybody's been truly fantastic to work with, and we're looking forward to it. So the thing that we will kind of acknowledge with the audience is that if you're at Automate, please come by 3425. We have some fantastic companies. Check us out on the Automate website, and you can see the full lineup of companies. Our hope is that those that connect with our Pittsburgh companies also find a place here in Pittsburgh, and we would welcome them here to help solve these problems.
Yeah, and NVIDIA is going to be having a pretty big presence at
will.
Automate this year.
Yep.
And, Pittsburgh was recognized as NVIDIA's first tech city to partner with.
Their hub collaborative.
Their hub collaborative
Yeah.
is Pittsburgh. So
Nice.
But then there's more opportunities like the Ag Progress Days. And do we want to move into
just Startup Week PGH.
Yeah.
Startup Week. I don't even know about this yet. I'm
Oh,
embarrassed.
drum roll, drum
man.
roll.
So I don't know if you've heard, Spencer, but you've experienced Pittsburgh's startup ecosystem, and as you know, it's pretty robust. And for a number of years, a lot of our incredible ecosystem partners have worked to bring awareness about our startup ecosystem by hosting a number of different events like the AI Horizons event and Demo Days and Startup Week Pittsburgh and
Discovery Day.
And so this year we're trying a new approach of trying to consolidate all of that innovation into 1 week. And a lot of this has a lot of credit to Meredith Grelly at the Schwartz Center. She's an incredible force. And CMU's Schwartz Center for Entrepreneurship at Temper is incredible. But all that to say, we have a action-packed week of September 14th through the 18th happening in Pittsburgh, where we're consolidating all of these events to take place all in 1 week. And so from Pittsburgh's standpoint, we're really excited from like a Pittsburgh Regional Alliance standpoint. It was like, now we have a mechanism to say, wait, maybe you would have been a company that would have been interested in coming to AI Horizons, or maybe you would have been a company that would have experienced Pittsburgh better by experiencing Pittsburgh Robotics Discovery Day, or maybe you're a venture capitalist that's interested in investing in robotics or technology evolving or being built in Pittsburgh. Well, now we're going to try to bring everyone to Pittsburgh at the same time, because much like everything that you've experienced and kind of what the ecosystem has experienced over the years is not only is Pittsburgh good at the innovation itself and building the ecosystems, but what I think we really are good at, to be perfectly honest, like our secret, sauce, is really the spillover effect. And so there was like a huge, now I'm geeking out, economic development. Sorry.
That's all good. No, I love hearing you talk. I mean,
but
this is stuff I don't even think about, and then you say it, and I'm like, oh, it's also obvious now.
But there was a pretty significant article written about co-working spaces when they were starting to hit their peak, when WeWork was really starting to peak in West Coast markets. But what they were recognizing is, how do you evaluate the economic impact of the spillover effect? The spillover effect is essentially not the economic development activity or the job creation activity or capital expenditure that happens directly with the companies that you're trying to serve. It's the spillover effect of when you experience this probably the best because of how well you network, Spencer. You're probably, you ask anyone in Pittsburgh, Spencer's a pretty well plugged in person here in Pittsburgh. But what people don't realize is that when you run into a simple problem or sometimes a complex problem. The spillover effect is, why don't I just ask Spencer? He's right next door to me at the desk right over there. And as a result, Spencer's or SK Robotics gets a contract to do work. Or I have this graphic design issue, and the spillover effect and the byproduct or the indirect spends that takes place from these companies really transitions into your startup ecosystem. And so the hard thing in economic development, particularly with measuring innovation ecosystems, is qualifying and quantifying the impact of the spillover effect. And so the spillover effect that we're trying to maximize in September is what we could really see happen is when we bring in the venture capitalists, the companies that are showcasing at Pittsburgh Robotics Discovery Day, the keynote speakers at AI Horizons, and frankly, the keynote speakers throughout the events at Innovation Works demo days. There's going to be 6 different as of today, there's only 6. There could be more than 6 pitch competitions for startups in the Pittsburgh ecosystem to pitch to get funding access. So, I mean, think about the spillover effect that happens just by getting that exposure and getting access to those mentors and that capital, and let alone the obvious exposure that the companies will have by participating at Robotics Discovery Day, AI Horizons. And so what we're trying to do is illustrate not only the ecosystem as it is, but the spillover effect that could be should you have a presence here, and bringing in robotics and technology companies that may not be here or may have a small footprint but could expand and really showcase the value proposition of the Pittsburgh effect.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm like super. I mean,
I'm gonna start calling it the Pittsburgh effect too.
Well, honestly, you should call it the Ben Pratt effect, because let me give you a little bit of credit, Ben. Kind of coming in and looking at a number of the events that we've had. As he mentioned, there was a lot of different events, but for us to really kind of come as a force together, it was really about the collaboration, and with Ben Pratt's ability to kind of pull folks together. We created an entity that allowed the collaboration to happen under our network connectors umbrella. And basically, even with a simple Excel sheet where he literally, with data, said, here's all of our events, right? And how do we combine some of these efforts together? And this is, again, where the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance comes into play. We have a unique position within this 10-county region to be able to see the different opportunities that are going on regionally in a bunch of different sectors. For us to be able to kind of map this out and say, hey, folks, this is what we're seeing, but we can have a larger effect if we do this in a more strategic way. Hence, Startup PGH Week, September 14th through the 18th. Yeah. When Ben and I went to CES 2025, and we would just pull out the terrible towel in front of a random name your booth, Panasonic.
Yeah.
Right? And people would just come up to us everywhere.
Nice.
It was, right?
It's so true.
It was amazing. So we decided, we don't need a booth at any...
Yeah, terrible towel.
All you need is a terrible towel. And so that was our CES approach.
Yeah.
Bring a terrible towel, hold it up, and things come to you.
And that's why we partner with the Pittsburgh Tech Council at CES.
Yep.
Because we just host a tailgate event at CES. For everyone who knows the terrible towel, they just come to the Pittsburgh tailgate reception, and we see so many people, as Jackie mentioned, on the floor, and we're like, oh, you're a Pittsburgh fan, Pittsburgh person, Pittsburgh connection, what's the Pittsburgh effect? Come to our reception, and we have a great time.
Yeah.
It was fun. I had fun when I went there.
Oh, man.
Quite enjoyed it.
CES knows what they're doing. And I mean,
yeah,
man, it's incredible showcase.
Yeah. And so we'll get ready for Automate, which is also a pretty big. It's grown tremendously, and I give Jeff Bernstein from.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, we got to give Jeff the shout out here.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up, Jeff? At A3, he's done tremendous work, and I've really appreciated. I'm going to put my policy hat back on. His work when it comes to advocating for robotics policy. and a robotics commission. I will say 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago, when I was prepping him for his very first hearing in front of Congress, and he had his second hearing a few weeks ago in front of Congress.
We talked about that when I saw him at the RBR 50 Awards a week ago.
And so I respect the fact that, as we've kind of evolved over the last decade of how you think about robotics, and I think this is the right time to really push this robotics type of commission where industry is working with different agencies. And, you see that within different agencies, whether it's NASA or DOD or OSHA or name your agency, they're trying to figure it out. But having a holistic kind of stomping grounds at the federal agency where a robotics commission can lean on industry to get some guidance and then implement some policies, I think is extremely important, especially in places like mine safety and workforce safety or workplace safety. And so I give Jeff a lot of credit for his advocacy.
Honestly, it's unsung. I mean, hopefully it's sung. Maybe he's still considered an unsung hero, but I would say it's unsung because he never will get the recognition.
You just got to come up with a song about him.
He just doesn't get the recognition he deserves. Like, he's been doing so much for the automation industry for so many years. When did A3 start? He's
been there 38 years.
I mean, think about the vision and commitment you have to sticking with an organization like A3. And I'm so excited about the success that they're realizing right now because Jeff has put in the time. And his dedication has been like unwavering. I mean, at least from my outside perspective, maybe it's wavered on his, but I have to say, like,
there's got to be days when
everyone has a bad day. Yeah. But I have to say, he's powered through them, and he's the man. I love Jeff. He's so good at it.
He's very good,
and he's been so good at Pittsburgh. We love when Jeff comes to town. Yeah, he knows more Pittsburghers than most people do.
And I can say my first get-together with Jeff was in 2016 down in Florida during one of their business forums that they hold every year. And this is when they were trying to develop clusters, right? So I was there, Pittsburgh, Silicon Valley was there, and then like Tom Ryda from Boston was there.
Lovely.
And we were all trying to figure out how do you kind of connect within these three different ecosystems. And it was an interesting conversation.
When was that?
This was
2016, you said?
Actually, I'll pull the pictures. I go back to, was it February of 2015?
Apologies.
It would have been 2015. Now I think about it. I was down there. It was in Florida because they have their business forums in Orlando, and we had a large conversation. It would have been 2015.
It's a good event.
It's a very good event, right? And here I got connected through Silicon Valley Robotics. That's kind of a long story of how I got connected to Jeff.
Andra Kay at that
point? Andra Kay. Because I was connecting with her for some other, reasons. And then she's like, you need to be a part of this conversation. So she was the one who connected me with Jeff Bernstein. And here I was down in Florida. And it was a really great experience. At the same time, my buddy who runs operations at Space Force, well, it wasn't Space Force at the time, now it is, I got to see a launch at the same time.
Oh,
so yeah.
But that's, I mean,
this is
not to diminish all of that work, but it's just to go to show you how long it takes to build this type of stuff, and how, this is, and the only reason I'm bringing this up and kind of putting a fine point on it is that we get the privilege of hosting a lot of companies and or ecosystems from abroad and ecosystems locally, and I think that, I know that the Pittsburgh Robotics Network does a great job in communicating the value proposition of the ecosystem, but it isn't to say that it hasn't been a labor of love for a long period of time, and the time, equity, resources dedicated to making sure that this becomes a industry of the future for Pittsburgh is it's a demonstration of Pittsburgh's commitment to an industry that, frankly, it's hard to I don't know of another industry that Pittsburgh has put that much time.
That's a good point, actually.
Well, I mean, if you go, how far back are we going in history here? 'Cause, I mean, I feel like our steel industry was big in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, no, not.
It was big for a number of decades.
But honestly, how much of that was organically driven, and how much was it done by, like, intentional interaction? Like,
Right.
I mean, Pittsburgh, and this isn't. I mean, the steel industry is, bread and butter. That's what made Pittsburgh Pittsburgh in many ways, and it will always be foundational to who we are. But to think about the community activation and intentionally engaging an emerging industry as early as Pittsburgh did in such a evolving industry, it's just a testament to the thought leaders at the time and those still doing it today, honestly.
And I remember when I was getting out of the meetings in Florida around, again, Silicon Valley and Boston, and that was one of my first phone calls with Kevin Dowling. He goes, I'm about to go into a meeting up here with Marshall and Howie and name your CMU roboticists around how do we develop an ecosystem. So between Kevin Dowling in Pittsburgh and me happened to be in Florida, and we were making these connections. I think just because we all care.
Yeah.
I think there's just an authenticity around caring for the people of the community and just wanting to see them succeed.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at a good point where we can start to kind of wind down the app. As we're nearing the end, is there anything you guys want to plug? I mean, we've been plugging all episode long, so I don't think it's really necessary, but we may as well tie a bow on it.
Well, we mentioned all these different industries that we recognize as innovative in Pittsburgh, and Startup Week being the September 14th through the 18th or Startup PGH, as it's going to be affectionately referenced as. But in October, we're looking at doing the same thing in advanced manufacturing and nuclear industry specifically.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we want to bring in innovative companies that are either supporting, adjacent to direct supply chain, or OEMs in the nuclear and or advanced manufacturing supply chain for the energy industry in October. So we're excited about that. That's going to be kind of our way to really recognize our core industry segments here in Pittsburgh. We really focus on life sciences, advanced manufacturing, energy, and robotics and technology. And so as an organization, and of course the agricultural industry is just in the fabric of who we are as Pennsylvanians. So how we continue to innovate those industry segments, we try to create the environments and set the tables for that spillover effect, the Pittsburgh effect that we talked about. And so we're really excited about all the things that we've mentioned already. Automate, bio. We're going to have a big presence in partnership with Business PA. The governor and the state will have a big booth at Bio International, and the University of Pittsburgh is going to have a pretty good presence there. And we're excited to partner with the Pittsburgh Life Sciences Alliance, looking at ways that innovation within the life science industry translate into the Pittsburgh landscape. So there's never to Jackie's earlier point, the spreadsheet is very big of all.
You can't put all this in the episode description.
You should see this spreadsheet, man. It keeps growing.
We'll put it in the comment fields of the podcast so that you can see all the different ways that we're engaging Pittsburgh. So
lovely. And I would say, for your audience that's listening, because it's vast, from a technical perspective to maybe international perspective, is that if you're looking to be anywhere in the United States that is solving really important problems, it's Pittsburgh. But we're doing it, in a very unique way that is, talent, people-based, data-based, compassionate-based. It's a tremendous place to be, right? And again, as the three of us have been in a number of different ecosystems, there's no place like Pittsburgh.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Right on.
All right,
thanks, Spencer.
sweet.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on.
Spencer, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Appreciate you both.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've made it this far, chances are you'll like other episodes too. Collaborative with Spencer Krause can be found on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. Subscribe today to get notified when the latest episodes release and support the channel. Have an idea for a guest I should interview? Hop in the comments and let me know who that is. I'm always looking for new people to talk to, and chances are you know folks that I don't yet. Thanks for coming in, and I'll see you on the next one. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is sponsored by SKA Robotics. If you're in the market for elite field robotics expertise, please consider hiring SKA Robotics. They sponsor this podcast and solve some of the toughest engineering problems in the world. SKA Robotics can be found at skarobotics.com.